I don't know about you, John, but I'm sitting in Phoenix. Halftime is approaching, and Viking fans are caterwauling in the stands, on social media, around the Twin Cities, around the country. And I'm thinking, there's a good angle to this. I'll explain that in a bit and see if John agrees with me in any way. This is the Viking Update Show, part of TalkNorth.com. Best way to listen to this show or any of our many shows at TalkNorth.com. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen, and we do appreciate it. Viking Update Show is presented to you by OnX Hunt and Giggly THC Beverages. We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We also want to thank Clamshell Beach Resort, Crazy Fresh, Twill and Edina Galleria, and Natrium. We'll tell you more about all of the sponsors later. Let's start here, John. I'm sitting there, in the press box. I'm like, okay, listen, if you're going to lose, if you're going to get blown out in the first round of the playoffs, then you might as well have clarity going into the offseason. I think they now have some clarity.
Yeah, I think so. You look at what happened there, and I think we will get into how disappointing the last 2 weeks have been. What a buzzkill it was for Vikings fans after such an unbelievably fun season. And they have every right to be upset, to be heartbroken, to be crestfallen, all of those things. Many reasons to get into that. But at the top of it, I do think that if there is one thing that you look at over these last 2 weeks and say, well, here's something to hold on to, it is that you got your answer for going forward. Is that the way that Sam Darnold played, the way that he really did flame out, for a fact that he is not your long-term solution at quarterback. He may be, there may be a scenario where you bring him back for one more year, but he gave you the evidence that you needed to say, we're going into this offseason and JJ McCarthy is the priority. He's the guy that we're going to develop. And who knows if JJ becomes great or becomes a bust or somewhere in between. We don't know that yet, but we know that what you saw from Sam Darnold in those moments says he is not the guy to give a long-term contract to and to stay with him versus moving and move on from JJ McCarthy. That's just not going to happen.
No. And I do think the way sports work, as you know, John, we've both been covering professional sports for a long time. It's always much more likely that you're going to bring somebody in from the outside for a reduced role than you're going to talk somebody currently with you to taking the reduced role. It would be so awkward if they went to Sam and said, okay, you won 14 games for us. You were talking about as an MVP candidate. Now, hold JJ McCarthy's hand for a few weeks and then we're going to bench you. It just doesn't work that way.
No, you're right. It doesn't. And, especially that would not be fair to Sam. It would not be fair to JJ either.
Right.
Because, you put JJ in there and if he struggles early, like many first tier starters would, there's going to be looking over the shoulder of, hey, this guy has shown that he can do it, at least in, for a wide swath of the regular season, he did it. Do you go back to him? Secondly, I do think for as disappointing as Sam Darnold was against Detroit and the Rams, he's still going to have an opportunity elsewhere, probably to start. There's several openings out there and very few ways to fill them. So there's a chance he could get a chance to start somewhere else. But for sure, he will have a chance to be a backup somewhere else. And like you said, it would seem to be, if you are going to be a backup, going somewhere else to do it is the way for it to work out for the best for the Vikings and for Darnold. So that's what I would anticipate is something of that nature. But there is a chance that he could get another 1 year, relatively cheap contract to come in and be a starter for the Saints or for, one of these other teams that does not have a quarterback in place and can't draft one that's ready to start right away either.
Agreed. The other point of clarity, I think, is I really highly doubt now that Brian Flores is going to get a head coaching job in this market. There are a lot of really good and interesting candidates out there. I think Brian deserves to be a head coach, but you're probably not going to get it when your team gets pounded the last 2 games of the year and you're suing the NFL and there are other good candidates around. So I think, I think next year's next year will be all about JJ McCarthy, whatever moves they can make to bolster the weak points of this roster, and Brian Flores trying to do it again.
Yeah, you're right. I think I'm in agreement with that as well. I do think that given all of the things surrounding Brian Flores, that they were probably going to have a lot of success in the playoffs for him to get another chance this year. I think he's done remarkable things with this defense and done an incredible job. But you're right. The way that the Lions and the Rams both sort of ran circles around the Vikings defense. And I do think the Vikings defense played well in the second half, of the game against the Rams, but they may have taken their foot off the gas. Either way, I think that there will be more options out there with other candidates that will jump in front of Brian for jobs. I think also that, you look at going into this offseason and all of the free agent money that the Vikings have to spend. I think there's a good chance that they could come back with more talent on defense next year. And so he could have an even better year. And you get one more year on top of the success that he's had in the first 2 years here. And maybe you do have some playoff success, kind of building off of that, next season. Now you're in a really strong position to go get a job. And you do look at, guys like Dan Quinn, defensive coach, Mike Vrabel, we'll see what he does in New England, but certainly a highly thought of guy who's not your prototypical offensive guru type. I think that there are going to be a few more opportunities and at least a little more consideration given to those guys on the defensive side of the ball. And so Flores will, I think, eventually be in that mix. But yeah, I think that these last 2 weeks probably push that back another year.
Agreed. All right. Looking ahead, and we'll be doing this all off season. What do you think the number one priority for change and improvement is outside of the quarterback position?
Yeah, I think Kevin O'Connell said it after the game. Is the interior offensive line.
Yep.
Even though I don't think the tackles had a very good game, against the Rams and gave up their fair share of pressures as well. You're going to get Darisaw back healthy. Brian O'Neill will be healthier next season. He's been banged up for a lot of the year. So I feel good about the tackles, but clearly it's time, with Garrett Bradbury, with the guards, you have to look at that and you have to beef that up in a major way. There was just too many games this season. There's been too many games, frankly, Jim, for the last 3, 4, 5 years where they just have not been able to dictate the terms up front, especially in the middle. How many times have we seen them get dominated by big, strong, fast nose tackles, defensive tackles? It happens all of the time. And it happened again against the Rams. And so that should be in the draft, in free agency, the biggest priority in my estimation is going and getting guys, 1 or 2 guys that are really going to help you up front there.
Agreed. It's also really interesting to see the best teams remaining in this playoff. You look at Detroit, you look at Philadelphia, you look at Kansas City, you look at Buffalo, you look at Baltimore, and they're just great offensive line units. They can power run, they can protect their passer, opens up the playbook. It's so important. And I would say that, for me, 1B is, and this is a little more subtle. The secondary was good this year. Smith played well enough at an advanced age. Cam Bynum made a lot of big plays. Stephon Gilmore was very good for most of the year. Byron Murphy Jr., I think, is a very good player. Shaq Griffin did his job with Metellus in that mix. That group was a strength overall, but did not play well the last 2 weekends. Got exposed by really good offensive teams. And now you have here's the test. Who do you really want back at a premium price? I'm guessing Harrison Smith's going to retire. If he doesn't retire, you have to have reasonable expectations about what he can still do at his age. Stephon Gilmore, he looked like he aged the last month of the season. After being great for so long this season, he just didn't make plays down the stretch. Didn't make plays in either Rams game. Shaquille Griffin, I think, is just a solid veteran free agent corner. Not great, not bad. Murphy, I think, is the guy you have to prioritize and bring back. He's still a very good player. He can be, a top corner, but you might be looking at those 5 people and maybe only bringing 1 back, maybe 2.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky and interesting because I do think Murphy is going to be in line for a fairly significant raise,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So you have to look at how you're doling out your resources. They do have a lot of money to spend, but if you want to spend it on the offensive line too, can you do both? I'm not sure. I agree with you, Jim, that a shutdown corner is a need of this defense, even with the way that Gilmore played. Maybe that comes in the draft. I'm not sure, but finding someone that can slot in and be a guy, even like I'm thinking of like like not Sauce Gardner, but DJ Reed is really good for the Jets. Maybe he's not like the best of the best, but certainly someone that you can put out there and say he has a reasonable opportunity of staying with the best receivers in the league. I think that is something that would help a lot. When you look at safety with Metellus, with Bynum, Smith might be retiring, but I think that is a place that you can probably find something in the draft or in free agency for fairly low money. And we've seen that time and time again, but cornerback is a premium position. And so either you got to pay through the nose in free agency or it's spending a relatively high draft pick on that spot. And so I do think that is a resource gobbling position, and rightfully so. And that could be a place where, maybe the Vikings look with their first round pick in the draft or something like that to find a guy that can come in and really help the depth and the quality of those cornerbacks, because they do need an upgrade for sure.
No doubt. All right, let's talk about Daniel Jones. Let's talk about the draft. Let's talk about the playoffs and other spots on this roster. We do want to once again thank Aquarius Home Services.
Hi, Scott here for Aquarius, your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Wishing you a Happy New Year. Is this the year for worry-free water? Your year for softer skin, spotless dishes, cleaner laundry, and drinking water so good you'll want to hug your faucet. Connecticut uses zero electricity and delivers water you will love. Plus, enjoy 25% off a Connecticut whole home water treatment system. Schedule your free water analysis today at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
We'd also like you to hear from our colleague at TalkNorth.com, Michael Russo, on Clamshell Beach Resort.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
In terms of Crazy Fresh, I've told you how many of the different products I've tried, how many of the different products I've loved. I also want to remind you that there is a golden ticket out that is in one of the Crazy Fresh products you can buy. You'll win an 85-inch television. Previous Crazy Fresh golden ticket winners got to go to the Vikings-Packers game at Lambeau. They always provide great prizes, but the real prize is that you will get really good, healthy, fresh food that makes your life so easy. And I don't love food preparation. I'll do it, but I don't really like doing it. I'd much rather pop a lid and have really good, fresh, professionally produced food that will either be a meal or a healthy snack or a weekend football snack. Great guacamole, great party dips, great fresh fruit, great fresh cut vegetables. I highly recommend all of it. Check out Crazy Fresh. You can buy it at your grocery store, but the delivery is so good. I highly recommend the delivery. And thanks to Crazy Fresh for sponsoring. Also, Twill in the Edina Galleria, Scott Dayton's shop, best men's clothing store in Minnesota. They don't do many sales. So when one comes along, you might want to take advantage of it. Right now, they're having their winter clearance sale, 40% off seasonal merchandise. That's 40% off seasonal merchandise. The sale started last week. Be going for a while now. Stop in and shop a great selection of fall and winter merchandise that is sure to keep you looking sharp and comfortable all season long. Stop in early for the best selection. Happy New Year from your friends at Twill. Remember, Edina Galleria, easy in, easy out, easy to park, easy to walk around, very pleasant place to spend a weekend, or a winter day or weekend. Great shops, great restaurants in that place. And Twill is welcoming and as easy a shopping experience as you will ever have. Check it out, or check out all the information about Twill at twillmn.com. You can even sign up for email notifications. All right, let's get to, it's almost too easy. They bring in Daniel Jones halfway through the year. He gets used to the offense. And now guess what? They need a bridge quarterback. Man, and Daniel Jones has watched Kevin O'Connell have unprecedented success with Kirk Cousins, with players like Josh Dobbs, and now with Sam Darnold. It's almost too easy that he's your bridge quarterback.
It makes too much sense, Jim, especially for Daniel Jones. His exit from the Giants was certainly ignominious, but that is a case where, much like Sam Darnold, you could say that he did not have a whole lot of help around him. I like Brian Daboll as a coach, but the talent just seemed to be very substandard for much of his run in New York. And so if he can go into that offensive system with this head coach, with these weapons, and have a chance to play, if JJ McCarthy isn't ready or whatever, that would seem to be his best route back to repairing his value and being seen as a starting caliber quarterback in this league. It's almost exactly what Sam Darnold went through. Now, certainly Daniel Jones had more experience and accomplishment by beating the Vikings in the playoffs under his belt when he got to Minnesota versus what Sam Darnold had. But I don't know if you're a quarterback that's sort of on the periphery or in no man's land in terms of trying to carve a space for yourself in the league. There are few positions that are better, places better than the Vikings with this coaching staff to come in and kind of get the tutelage, get your value repaired, and get an opportunity to play and to play well. Maybe San Francisco is one of those, maybe a few others, but Kevin O'Connell has to be right at the top of the list of coaches I'd want to work with if I was a quarterback who needed to improve, or even if I was an established quarterback. It's just such a warm and hospitable environment for quarterbacks that makes a lot of sense to me as well.
So they had a home run season for free agents, veteran free agents. And when you add in the trades they've made for Cam Robinson, who was at least serviceable for most of the season, and TJ Hawkinson deal, they've done great work in bringing in veteran players who fit in immediately and make a big impact, and they want to keep around. At some point, you got to draft well. And, if JJ McCarthy and Dallas Turner turn into stars, then that will certainly check that box. But going into this season, right now, they have a first round draft pick. It'll be the 24th pick in the draft. They have 2 fifth-round draft picks. I would expect them to get 1 or 2 compensatory picks that'll be in, middle, lower round. Not a lot of draft picks at your disposal. I don't really believe that you just go into a draft saying we're going to take somebody at this position. But if right now you're going to say what position should they draft somebody if that 24th pick, what position would you try to attack?
Yeah, certainly without having any real knowledge of the depth of each position in this draft particular, I would certainly say I think cornerback, at that spot. Where are they, 24th? Is that where they're picking?
Yep.
So later in the first round, you look for what is available and what positions can come in and help and contribute right away. and what ones can make impacts. I think a cornerback for the right one would make a lot of sense to me there. At 24, it's typically not a spot that you take a guard or a center. So usually that's it's not, you can do it, but I think that generally speaking, you look at it and you can get interior offensive linemen later in the draft, that can help you. And maybe you spend some money in free agency on that as well. But I like the idea of a cornerback, of a defensive back, of any stripe there at 24. Or, the other thing to look at is an interior defensive lineman as well. Like, I think if you could beef up your run stopping or your interior pass pressure, help Harrison Phillips out. And we saw some good things from their other guys, but I think that's another possibility where you look at and say, there's another area and another position group that can come in and contribute right away and kind of build and develop over the next couple of years into a great player.
A few more topics I want to get to, and I'm going to start off by talking about how the Detroit Lions might shape the Vikings' thinking. First, we want to welcome one of our newer sponsors, one of our presenting sponsors, Giggly THC Beverages. I want to keep the party going without the next day of regrets. Say hello to Giggly THC Beverages, your new social sidekick for good vibes and even better taste. No alcohol, no bad decisions, just THC-infused cocktails, seltzers, and teas packed with natural ingredients and superfood extracts like ashwagandha and ginseng. Whether you're clinking cans at a backyard bash or just chilling with friends, Giggly's got you covered. Ditch the hangover, sip something smarter. You can find Giggly THC beverages at over 500 locations, including Total Wine, MGM, Cub Foods, Top 10, and many more. And because we think you're going to love it, we're offering 50% off your first order with code GIGLYNORTH. That's GIGLI North. Shop now at GIGLI.com. No alcohol, no hangover, just giggles. Also like to thank Natrium, another product I use, like the Giggly stuff, just makes me feel good. With Natrium, I use it more for body aches, a sore finger and a sore leg right now, and I can use their balms and they just work. And I love that it's just topical. You're not taking a pill and hoping that sometime over the next 12 hours it's going to start working. You can feel it working right away. And the cool thing about this stuff, like let's take their balms. Let's take their topical balms. They're antifungal. They're anti-infectious. They're antibacterial. They're anti-inflammatory. They help with muscle pain. They help with arthritis. They help with tendinitis. They can work as quickly as 15 minutes. You can apply 3 times a day. They actually smell good. It doesn't smell like that old, what they call it, Ben Gay, where you smelled like a Walgreens walking around. It actually smells good. It goes on easily. It's not gross on you. I mean, and that's the kind of product they have. I'll highlight different products as we go forward here, but that's what I'm using right now that I'm getting just a great effect out of. And I'm so glad that they're sponsoring us because it introduced me to this kind of a product. So check out Natrium, natrium.com, and go there in person to either a Natrium or a Wildflower store. Also like to let you know about OnX Maps. And we told you earlier this year about, some of the ways they can help you with hunting. Well, they can also help you with ice fishing. And guess what? Ice fishing is here, and it's time to hit the frozen water with OnX Fish. The Fish app is the most comprehensive fishing tool for increasing your confidence on ice. Use OnX Fish to find new places to fish and sort lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potentials. OnX Fish also shows you hot spots, lake-by-lake regulations, and private and public land ownership information. For limited time, download OnX Fish for free in Minnesota and Wisconsin, or go to onxmaps.com/fish to get more information on the app that is changing the game on ice. Had an interesting conversation with some of the media people who cover this team. And one person said, you're going to be breaking in a rookie quarterback at some point next year. Maybe it's September, maybe it's October, whatever. JJ McCarthy's going to suddenly become the most important person on the field. And the Detroit Lions right now are loaded. They're incredibly talented. They're incredibly well coached. They're incredibly good. And they just haven't reached a point where they're starting to lose anybody because of salary cap issues. Maybe the right way to look at this, as hard as it is coming off a 14-win season, maybe the right way to look at this is you're really trying to build up for, say, 2026, when the Lions do start losing people, And maybe McCarthy's in his second year, and maybe some of your younger players like Dallas Turner have started coming around. Nobody really wants to think that way, but is that the right way to look at it?
You know, maybe it is. When you think about the timeline and where Detroit is in their development, that said, I think Detroit is great. I love them. Like, I picked them to win the Super Bowl before the season. I think that they have a great shot to do it in these playoffs now that we're here. That said, like, I don't know that you look at them as sort of like an insurmountable foe. They certainly have done a great job of building their identity. They have an incredible amount of talent on both sides of the ball. I don't expect that to stop because they do a great job of drafting and developing as well. And so, I do think that you can absolutely now say that in this division, the Lions are the gold standard right now. And I think that'll keep going forward. That said, I mean, I think that you look at what the Vikings were able to do this year with a quarterback who is not considered one of the best in the league, even though he had a great season, and they went 14-3. They had a phenomenal year. That to me tells you they should go into this offseason thinking we're not that far away. If JJ McCarthy is able to come in and play well, not superstar, but play well, we have the weapons around him. If we can get him more help on the offensive line to make sure he gets the protection that he needs, and maybe that's one thing we haven't talked about yet, Jim. Looking at running back and what do you do with there, because I think that's very, very important. But I think you bolster the defense a little bit. You have a lot of money to spend. You don't have many draft picks, but I think they have opportunities to really improve their roster and get to a point where they should go into next season, if they make the right moves and are able to address things, with a very high amount of confidence that if things break their way, that they can be right in the running for this division and certainly for a deeper playoff run. I truly believe that, just given what we saw from this team that still was considered at the start of the year. We thought this was going to be another gap year. So I think they could still be in it.
I love your optimism, and that's probably the right way to look at things. Let's go to the running back position since you brought it up. Aaron Jones had a very good year. I think he had his career best rushing total. He was instrumental in them getting off to a hot start and playing very well early. He was instrumental at times over the second half of the season, although he dealt with some injuries. He fits the offense well. He's an excellent pass catcher. He's smart. He's a great dude. Everybody loves him. But are you good enough at running back if your goal is a Super Bowl? You're seeing so many other teams with superstar running backs. Just unstoppable running backs. Is Aaron Jones? Aaron Jones is not on the superstar level. Are you satisfied with him? Do you bring him back?
Yeah, he's not on the superstar level, but I also think he's good enough and important enough that I'd like to bring him back if you're not breaking the bank for him. I think he's really, really important to what they do as a safety net in the passing game, as a guy who always seems to churn out positive yardage in the running game, even if he's not Saquon Barkley and leaping over dudes backwards anymore. I still think he's a plus on that side of things. To me, I think the ideal scenario is almost similar to maybe quarterback this year, where it was, if you could get a guy in the draft, a young guy, not in the first round, but a little bit later, that you really, really like and think that he can develop into something, but that Jones is the guy that holds the fort until rookie running back is ready. I think that's a great scenario to play out. It doesn't seem like what we saw. We like Cam Akers a lot. Ty Chandler didn't really seem to do as much. So the young, kind of running back of the future, I don't think is on this team right now. And I think that given the way that the game has developed, and to your point, the running game has become a much more integral part of offense in the last year or two than it was, previous to that. And so I do think it's important to have a stable there, and to have, if Aaron gets dinged up again, that you have someone you can go to. I thought Akers stepped in really, really well for the most part this season, but I don't think he's your long-term answer. So if they could go and get someone, fast, dynamic, that kind of player to have a combo platter in the backfield with Aaron Jones. I like that scenario a lot.
I like the idea of it. I'm just not sure if you only have 4 or 5 draft picks, if you can spend one on a running back. Maybe you can. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe they continue to do such good work in veteran free agency that the draft picks just aren't, the lifeblood of the franchise right now, the way we tend to think of them, and the way that the draft industry wants us to think of the draft, with 4 months of coverage about a pick that might not even do much for your team. So, yeah.
Well, Jim, just on that, Jim, do you think, would you just rather have Jones come back and Jones, Akers, and Chandler or someone like that, do you think? I mean, what do you think the answer is if you don't draft a running back?
I think that would be my answer is Jones back, Akers back if he makes financial sense. Chandler, obviously, major disappointment this year. He got passed he was standing still by Cam Akers, which was not the plan. I don't know if there's anything to be salvaged there. He does, he showed some juice at the end of the previous season. He actually looked in a couple of those games oh man, this might be the dynamic game breaker you can develop into something. Obviously, he did not progress the way he needed him to this year. But I guess I'm more comfortable with them bottom feeding at that, or either retaining or bottom feeding at that position than I am at other positions.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. It's fair to say. I would be a little concerned about Jones' age and ability to stay healthy, and if he's going to hit a wall. And then Akers, will he stay healthy again? He's been through a lot. He's overcome a lot. Everyone in that locker room absolutely loves Cam Akers, and he's clearly a positive presence on this team. And he came up with some big runs this year, but he's definitely more workmanlike at this stage of his career too. So I guess I would wonder if they have you. I think you want a more dangerous bullet in the chamber, at that position if you can get it. And I also think that right now, the way that rosters are being constructed, clearly the belief is you draft a running back, you have him for 3 or 4 years, and then you let him go, and then you draft another one. And that seems to be kind of the path forward for a lot of teams. Maybe the Vikings don't. Maybe they stick with it as is, or you probably could make it 1 more year. But then if you don't draft a back this year, you have to draft one next year. I think that's where they are in the timeline.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's wrap up this show. Once again, thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks to all of our listeners. Thanks for hanging with us here at TalkNorth.com. We do appreciate it. Check out the lineup. You should know the lineup by now. Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanza, Ryan Shaver, Don Mitchell, Mike Grimm, Jeff Diamond, John Millay, The John Krawczynski Show, Kevin Gorg, The Bar Down Beauties, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on. Outdoor content. Again, subscribe to any shows you like. We do appreciate it. So I don't want to go pick by pick here. We'll make it quicker than that. But the 4 games of the best weekend in football of all these, what attracts your eye about these 4 games?
2 things. I mean, I love Baltimore Buffalo, just as a matchup. I think that's going to be a fantastic game, with 2 unbelievable quarterbacks, the 2 leading MVP candidates going at it here. And the other thing that I'm super intrigued about, Jaden Daniels going into Detroit and seeing what he can do. He's had an unbelievable rookie season. Everyone in Washington is over the moon about him, rightfully so. You and I were both very, very high on him going into the draft. And I know I said at the end I would probably lean Jaden Daniels at number 1 over Williams. And I can't remember if you said it, but I know we both really liked him.
I had Jaden Daniels number 1. I think I even said I preferred Michael Penix over Caleb Williams.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. So, I mean, certainly, just seeing what he's going to be like in that environment is going to be super fun to watch. And I love Detroit. So I love watching them play. And so those are the 2 games that I really focus on as super compelling. And hopefully it'll be largely better than the first round of the playoffs, because there were a couple duds in there.
No doubt. I agree with exactly what you said. So I'll mention the other games. I'm really interested in the Chiefs. They're going for the first 3-peat ever. They're rested. They get to play, listen, Texans are a pretty good team, but this is a pretty ideal matchup for them. They're not having to play a really tough team. They're playing at home. And I just think if the Chiefs can win this one easy, and I suspect they will, then they're going to go into the AFC Championship game, a year they're looking for a three-peat, having played like with almost no worries all season. I'm just really fascinated by that potential. The other one is Rams-Eagles. I think this game, so if the Eagles get off to a hot start and they can just run the ball all day, they're probably going to win going away. If the Rams can find a way to put the Eagles in a position where they have to throw the ball, that's where this game can become interesting, and the Rams might have a chance to pull out a big upset.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued about that game because I want to see how the Rams do. And I do think that whatever happens in that game is a reflection on where the Vikings finish the season. Like if the Rams go on win and play really well, then it's like, okay, not quite as bad of a loss. But if the Eagles just really control it and stomp them and take advantage of a Rams defense that really wasn't all that good for a lot of the season, then I think that's a really poor reflection on what the Vikings were able to do in that game.
Agreed. Good stuff from John. Also check out the John Krawczynski Show. John's great show about the Timberwolves and the NBA. Check out all the shows at talknorth.com. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.